Perfect. Now we can start.
Yay.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 4 of the Aged Out Podcasts. I'm one of our two hosts, Mike Fantini. Here next to me is
Evan Worrell.
And we are here with a good friend of ours, Ben Thompson, who we'll introduce shortly. We've been over at his house hanging out to watch the entire San Antonio Regional on the Flow Marching broadcast today.
Yeah, so we're here with Ben, who marched Memphis Sound in 07, world champion, both gold medalist and drum trophy that was in what was considered Div 3 at the time.
The Sanford Junior.
The Sanford Junior.
Think about this. Technically, he is the most winningest drummer at this table right now.
That is accurate, actually.
I got the ring upstairs.
He also marched Teal Sound snare line in 08. Then was a part of the Bluecoats front ensemble in 2009, and also actually marched with myself at Rhythm X in 2010 and was a world champion at Rhythm X in 2009.
Definitely the most winningest percussionist at this table.
You have more gold medals than the rest of us.
Well, you know what? When you place yourself in the lucky spots, you end up on the lucky end of things.
Sometimes it's just being at the right place at the right time.
That's correct. Well, don't forget Tate's Creek in 2008.
That's right. Ben and I actually marched Tate's Creek. We were in the same snare line.
I had the fortune of standing next to Evan Worrell in the Tate's Creek snare line in 2008, and that's probably where I most learned about sound quality.
I'm sorry. At the time, I was playing snare drum very, very aggressively.
Wow.
I'll say.
I feel like every drummer goes through that stage.
You know
where
what?
You don't have the strength.
At some point, I had to learn to blend with somebody, and it might as well have been Evan, who grew up listening to the Cadets and was very, very loud.
I was trying to imitate the Cadets as much as possible, but
you probably weren't the only one.
As Mike said, we've been over here watching the San Antonio Regional, which has been a long afternoon, but good time hanging out, catching up, and watching some band. But I guess, we'll take the time here to kind of walk through what we all just witnessed. And
well, before we do that, I kind of want to let Ben. How did you get started in the activity?
That's a good question. I'm assuming that I followed the path that most people did, in the fact that I kind of got into marching percussion in high school. Went to male high school in Louisville, and freshman year started out on bass drum, and I'm pretty sure I fell to the ground more than any marching percussionist has ever done in one season. And so that was my first experience with bass drum. And after that, got into quads, played quads for a couple of years, had the good fortune of playing with some pretty good players in both high school and independent indoor. Adam Norris being one of them, current quad tech at Blue Stars.
The boss.
Yeah, the boss. One of my best friends. The best man at my wedding, to be accurate. But then after that, got into playing snare drum because quads were too heavy.
Smart move.
Yeah. After one indoor season where my back gave out, I decided that quads were overrated and I wanted to play traditional grip. So after that, went to Tate's Creek indoor after I started going to Eastern Kentucky University, and that's where I met the guy to my right here, Evan Worrell. Stood outside of him for a season at Tate's Creek. Decided that I was going to play snare drum for a while. Went to Memphis Sound that winter in 07. Continued in 08 at Teal Sound. And then in 2009, decided I would sit down for my age out year and play some drum set at Rhythm X and Bluecoats. And then continued my age out year in indoor at Rhythm X in 2010.
Bluecoats, Rhythm X, almost the same thing.
It's pretty much the same thing. I mean, most of the guys were the same from one place to the other. So just decided that drum set was my thing. And that's still what I'm doing to this day. Not doing much else other than playing drum set. So
If I could have sat down and played marching snare drum, I probably would have. So
That's kind of what I try to do.
Would it be a false statement to say that the vast majority of people in drum lines hate marching? I know a lot of guys that I marched with were always just like, why can't I just want to drum.
if I could stand still and warm up in the lot on a drum stand, and that would be my show, then I would do that.
Well, I feel like old school PASIC days when they're, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, when you could go compete and just stand still and play, that was the dream for everybody. But being a large guy that could happen to like move his hands pretty well, I decided that sitting down was more cool than moving around. So that's what I went with.
Fair enough.
I just happened to get to learn from some really, really talented people, most of which are still at Bluecoats and Rhythm X. So very fortunate to be able to have that opportunity.
Cool. All right. Now that everybody knows who we all are at this table completely, let's get into the drum recap from the regional.
Oh, the drum recap? Let's see here. The drum recap is quite fascinating in my opinion.
Oh, there was a regional tonight?
Some drums happened?
All right. So overall, percussion winner for the San Antonio Regional, we have the Santa Clara Vanguard finished first. BD in second place. Don't agree with that one. Tied for third.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Tied for third, we have Carolina Crown and Bluecoats. Crown won on the field.
Really?
And Bluecoats won from the box. So the ensemble there. Then in fifth place, we have what I believe is the Cavaliers here. Sixth place, kind of a surprise, Boston Crusaders jumping up from the ranks here.
Wow.
Seventh, we have what looks like, if I'm reading the recap correctly, seventh is Cadets. Yep. Eighth is Blue Knights. Ninth, we got the Phantom Regiment there. And then 10th, Blue Stars, Crossman 11th. And then rounding out the top 12 are the Madison Scouts. And we'll get into kind of some of the rest of that, but that's the top 12 there. So, after the top 12, let's jump back up here to the top and let's kind of, I guess, go through these.
Let's do.
We can talk drums and I guess just overall show.
I'm sure overall show stuff will just like interject itself.
So first in drums, Santa Clara Vanguard. Okay.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Their show is just chock full of just flat out energy.
Yes. 100% agree.
Yes.
It's exciting.
I can tell you the one group that I was probably more pleased with from a percussion standpoint, strictly from the battery, did not finish high enough to even be in competition with this. And that would be the Cadets. And we will get there when we get there. But
I want to talk about that all on its own.
Yeah.
Because that kind of confused the hell out of me.
Because, don't get me wrong, the Santa Clara Vanguard...
they played well.
Yes, they absolutely did. And their book, and I'll say this from a person that tends to get a little stale on Santa Clara Vanguard, and most things that Paul Rennick has done in the past 5 years, not to discredit anything that he has done. Because obviously it speaks for itself. I mean, how many drum trophies has he won in the past 6 years?
More than anyone else, probably.
Right.
He's almost got a 50%.
So
right?
obviously there's a ton of respect due to Paul Rennick there. But it seems like there's a formula there, and the musical package tends to get a bit stale on me over the years. And this is one of the years where I've looked at that and said, okay, this is fresh. This is new. This is different Paul Rennick. Paul Rennick has stepped it up, and I'm very pleased with what I'm hearing there. I do feel like that they've kind of stepped back a little bit in terms of clarity from what I've seen earlier in the season to where I've seen now.
I would agree.
I think they're getting worse.
I think they've gotten worse.
Yeah,
as the season's gone on.
you know, I hate to put it like that, but the reality of the situation is they're not as good as they were at the end of June. From what I've seen, and keep in mind, you know, I'm a weekend warrior. I'm a YouTube professional. I'm a Flow Marching subscriber.
Well, especially like compared to like I guess where they came out of the gate relative to the other corps around them to where they are now, I feel like they have gotten maybe a little bit better since the beginning, but the groups around them have gotten better at a higher rate. So it may, like they're not like I feel like people surpass them. Maybe.
Well, sure, and it almost kind of saddens me a little bit because, like I said, most times I hear Reddit groups, I'm thinking this is the same stuff I've heard for the past 3-4 years, and this year is really different. I mean, I really appreciate what he's doing. It's kind of a step up in terms of demand, and really just kind of a difference from what we're used to hearing from Paul. And it started out being so promising, and I feel like it's just taken a step back, and it's a little disappointing because I'm really pulling for that.
Yeah. I would love to see Vanguard win overall.
I really would.
A championship.
And this is coming from somebody that is really tired of seeing Paul Rennick-Lines win. I don't mean to be like derogatory or anything, but like I'd really love to see somebody do something different and overcome that. But Paul just has the formula, and he's doing something that's pretty fresh this year, and he's doing it really well. And they just kind of took a step back over the last couple weeks, and you know, I would really love to see them get back to where they were a couple weeks ago, and probably take home the drum trophy.
Yeah, I
would say, if not for the Cadets, which we will get to in a little bit. So I won't overshadow what we get to here in a little bit, but very pleased with what I've seen from Vanguard, from the battery.
Based on the drum lines alone and what I saw tonight, the only explanation I can come up with of how they won drums. Now, granted, we're watching a recording and a live stream. Staging can affect how we hear things. We got all that stuff. We weren't in front of them on the field like
we got to work with what we have.
But based on what I heard from them and everybody else in that mix of top 6 percussion sections, the only explanation I can come up with of how they won drums tonight is probably the front ensemble. That had to be it. Well, because like I can think of 3 drum lines that cut through the horn line better.
Yeah.
And played way more phrases crystal clear than Vanguard's battery did tonight. It had to be the front.
And as somebody who just said what I said, I'll give you credit on that, because one of the things that I think as a listener I struggled with tonight was the benefit of the doubt versus the tuning and how that came across from the microphones in the Alamo Dome. Because I feel like there were a lot of things that could have been a lot more highly appreciated that weren't, based on the tuning of some of the lines I heard. And I think as we go down the rankings, we'll kind of get into that a little bit more.
For sure. I don't think Vanguard's tuning of the snare line helped them in the Alamo Dome. It seemed very, very wet.
I'm not really sure anybody's snare line tuning helped them in the Alamo Dome.
I don't know. Crown's snare line
Crown's
pretty well.
We'll get there.
Okay, yeah.
But in regards to tuning, we'll kind of segue us into
I think everyone will understand where we're going to land at on Crown by the time we get there.
So it'll kind of segue us into group number 2 regarding tuning. So overall, second percussion, the Blue Devils. Oh my God. No, just no. Like the whole 16 snare phrase at the beginning. It's not good. I've never heard one single recording of it be good.
I don't care if it is good. I really don't care if it is good.
I would care if it was good.
And those system blue drums, like think about this. They have world-class musicians and players playing on these system blue drums, and in my opinion, they still don't project. You have some of the best people in the world playing these instruments, and they still don't project. Like, no, they just don't sound good. Like, the tuning does not sound good to me. It sounds great.
Well,
everything sounds great.
You know what? I mean, if those drums were hit more than 6 times a measure for more than a third of the show, I may be able to put up a rebuttal to you, but it is a typical Blue Devil book where it is quarter notes and open stroke rolls for 2/3 of the book,
and then they'll play that battery
and then
feature,
they will play something that is meaty for 10 measures at a time, and it will probably be good because that's what they have to clean for the summer, and I can't fault them for that. But at the same time, it gets really, really boring to listen to.
No, I fault DCI for that because, I mean, obviously they also won overall tonight, and they won, I'm looking at the recap here, they won visual, but they don't march. They don't march and play ever. They just don't move, and I don't understand it. Like, DCI rewards them. Yeah, they play great. They move well when they do move, but it's so much less than some of the groups below them, and it's not even close.
So I should clarify before we go on. I am nothing but a music guy. I have nothing but an ear. My eyes are. I might as well be a blind man when it comes to watching a drum corps or a WGI group. I have almost nothing to add to creativity in terms of design or visual or anything like that. My whole career has been based around playing, and when it comes to teaching, it has been strictly in a musical sense. So, anything I say tonight, please keep in mind that that is based strictly on my ear because I recognize where my limitations are. And when these guys get to talking about environmental demand and visual demand and things like that, and when they get into show design and concept, I'm gonna gradually bow out of those conversations because my brain doesn't work that way. I can only hear what's bad and what's not. So that's literally all I have to offer to the conversation. And when it comes to the Blue Devils, it's okay at best, in the sense that there is a lot of demand for very small amounts of time, and then for a large amount of the time there is almost no demand at all, and it is very, very boring for somebody like me to listen to. And I'm going to say this throughout the night. I'm going to be kind of unapologetic about my opinions.
That's fine. That's fair.
Throughout the evening, because I feel like that's what I've been asked to bring to the table is my opinions, and some of them are going to be unpopular, and that's fine.
Wait, you didn't get the script?
Are we going to be fined by the FCC for this?
Blue Devils Entertainment's going to come after us.
Yeah. We're going to be sued by DCI after this. But no, but it is, I feel like if anybody's going to listen to this, they're going to want to hear what people actually have to say. And, my opinion, I know what my resume is. I know what my background is, my education. I think what I think. And if that's unpopular, that's fine. But I'm just going to think what I think.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
But you know what? And I think that's what makes what you guys are doing with a podcast like this so special, is because you see this type of outlet being utilized in so many other venues, whether it be sports, mainstream music like pop music, politics.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
big.
What you guys are doing in this venue, whether you consider it podcast or radio or whatever, what people pay attention to are opinions, and what gets people to listen are polarizing opinions.
They either listen to it, agree, or they hate
it. And you know what? As somebody that has just kind of sat in on this and really respecting what you guys are doing, I don't really give a shit what anybody thinks about what I have to say.
Yeah.
So my first controversial thing I'll say is that the Blue Devils are good. They play well, but they don't really play that much. And that's my opinion of the Blue Devils.
I think that just goes with that trend of it's becoming more of a production and more of a just thematic presentation as opposed to like, all right, here's all this awesome music and this really hard drill, and we're just going to be really good at it.
Yeah.
It's just the direction I think it's going. And the Blue Devils might have been a pioneer of that, but
well, and like you guys said 2 episodes ago, I wish somebody else wrote the book for them. I wish Scott
wrote more of it.
But with David
Glide.
David Glide, yeah,
that's his name.
David Glide, yeah. For as many good ideas as that guy has, he needs to realize that there are better ideas to be had in terms of the battery book, because he really...
It's gotten stale.
It does, man. It does get stale. And like there's some things he did 6 or 7 years ago that were really fresh and really hip that have just kind of lost their way now. And
agreed.
There's just not much going on that is really that impressive to me. So, anything they execute well is just kind of like, well, okay. Like, that's just Blue Devils. That's just what they do. So.
All right. So, we had a tie for third, but using the, I'll use my own personal tiebreaker of the group that won on the field has to break that tie, and that would be Carolina Crown. And my opinion, obviously on March there, is going to be somewhat more biased. So I'll let you guys kind of... Yeah, that's fine. I'll own it. It is what... I'll own it. I'll let you guys kind of weigh in on the old cream team. That's what we used to call it. Because we had cream uniforms.
So unfortunate.
So I'll let you guys weigh in on the Crown here.
When we get to Bluecoats, I'll let you discount my opinion.
That's okay.
Oh, man. All right. Crown was very good. Their battery, I thought, was probably one of the best 2 on that field tonight. They had way more. They had a lot of phrases cut through the horn sound. It was just a very clear sound on a lot of stuff. And we got a chance to hang out with Dan Shack, their battery coordinator, last weekend when they were in Kentucky. And he was kind of talking to us about what they've been hearing on tapes, what they've been just
getting feedback
from judges and witnessing other groups doing and talking to staff they know there. And he said they were getting hammered on like front ensemble content, not achievement, but like the content of what the Crown front's playing.
Okay.
And like I said, I think Vanguard was in first tonight probably because of their front, based on what I heard from the battery. And BD's always had a good pit. Blue Devils always have a good front. I mean, so maybe Crown's pit was the reason they were in third in percussion. I didn't notice anything.
That's tough for me.
Because it's hard. So a lot of times when you have exclusive battery guys like Evan and I, we can tend to just look at drum lines, and we got to remind ourselves like it's a percussion section. And
I feel like maybe I may have done a disservice to the discussion from somebody that's been on both sides of the front sideline. For what Blue Devils is from a battery standpoint, and to be clear, they're great. They're really good.
They are.
I'm not discrediting the level to which they execute what they have.
We're
because
talking about it from a content
it is
standpoint.
Consistently outstanding. You're correct. I'm talking consistently from a content standpoint, and just my preference and what I'd like to hear versus what I do hear from them on an ongoing basis. Now, there are years where they do more than I would have expected them to, and they usually win drum trophies those years. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll transition from that to their front ensemble, because their front ensemble, when they have a good year, there's nobody better. The writing and the execution that they have from a front ensemble's perspective is second to none. And I think in a lot of those drum trophy years, that has carried their battery.
I would agree with that.
Not to discredit what their battery has done, but I think the amount that has been achieved up front has a little bit superseded what has been achieved backfield.
So having said that, it might make sense then, if the content might not be on the same level as BDs and Vanguards, that Crown would end up in third in percussion tonight, despite their battery being better than both of those batteries, in my opinion.
So yes, I would agree with that. I felt like Crown's drumline executed better than anybody I saw all night. And that's a loosely stated opinion, because there were a couple groups very close to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I felt like Crown executed probably better than anybody else did from a battery standpoint. At the same time, I don't feel like Crown is reaching for the level of difficulty that other groups are. That being said, as a listener and as a, somebody that's going to give their opinion on this, I would much rather hear something that can be executed well versus something that's super cool and super hard that can't be executed well.
That's something I want to talk about.
Which brings us to our next group.
Right.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, but
so not to be really good at just transitioning subjects, but
segue.
Yeah.
That's something we're going to talk about in a little bit.
It's a natural talent I have.
Well, yeah, it feeds directly into the group that I guess tied third, which would be the Bluecoats. So Crown and
Here we go.
Crown and Bluecoats tied for third.
Let's open up the can of worms.
Yep.
So
this has been rubbing his hands together, ready to talk about the Bluecoats.
So sitting here, me, a Crown alumni,
Yep.
with two Bluecoats alumni.
Hey man, you received the quickest Bluecoats battery contract ever given in probably almost any drum corps history.
Possibly.
Well, you didn't take it.
I didn't take it.
True. But it happened in a matter of about 90 minutes of being there Friday night.
It was pretty quick. But yeah, Bluecoats.
So you're
how do
sitting
you
here
judge
with
it? How do you judge the front? How do you judge the?
You're sitting here with two Bluecoats alumni, one battery, one front ensemble, and a Crown alumni on the other side of the table. So you look at what Crown's second, Bluecoats third, tied third.
They tied for third, yeah.
With who?
Crown.
Crown and Bluecoats both tied each other, but
Okay.
Crown won clarity on the field, and Bluecoats won ensemble from the box.
Okay. So what were the comp scores?
The comp scores? Let's see here. Let's pull it up. I believe Crown was third on the field and Bluecoats were fifth on the field, but I'll double check here.
From a comp standpoint.
So compositionally, Bluecoats finished in tonight's show on the field fifth, and Bluecoats were fourth, third. But from the box, Bluecoats were third, second.
I would
and
agree with
Crown
that.
was
I
fourth,
think
fifth.
I think Bluecoats have a harder book than Crown.
Bluecoats have a very hard book.
I think their book's the
Still
hard.
hard.
I think it's the
not
hardest
clean.
book at
Yeah,
anyone.
and you know what? I heard you guys talk about this a couple weeks ago, and I will agree. It on almost all fronts, it is too much for what can be executed right now. But here's what I'll say. Here's what I will say about that. Who won the drum trophy in 2011?
Cavaliers.
The Cavaliers did.
Cavaliers won in 2011.
That is correct. Now, as I watch Cavaliers throughout the summer of 2011, they were not great. They were gray all through the year. And what I really admired about that group is they just kept plugging along. They did not water down very much. And I remember watching them throughout the year and then showing up at finals and thinking, okay, that's one of my favorite things I've ever seen, ever. Obviously, they won a drum trophy. They were very good. I think we all know Dan Shack.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a line that executed very well.
For those who don't, he was the center snare for that drum line.
Sure. But, I think that was all something that anybody that was there to listen to it thoroughly enjoyed. I would love to see that happen for the Bluecoats this year, but I just don't know if it's going to happen.
I think it's what they were banking on happening last year.
Well, I think the difference in those two scenarios are the Cavaliers 2011 percussion ensemble was gray because that show was littered with space and timing, and it was like
it is my favorite. It might be my favorite book ever,
and it was all things that
for that
were just
very
like
reason.
learning how to feel the space together, learning how to feel the timing together, coming in, attacking together. And
decrescendoed 5-lit ping shots.
Yeah, but like,
I mean,
the difference between that is like it was all space. It wasn't things that they couldn't play. It was just things they had to learn how to feel. Like, I feel like the Bluecoats book now...
It was shit that nobody had ever done before. Excuse my language.
That's all right. I feel like the Bluecoats book now isn't space. It's like chops. Like, they literally can't play some of the stuff.
It's a different kind of difficulty.
Yeah, and it's some of it... And here's what's frustrating as a Bluecoat alumni. Some of it is really, really well executed. And obviously, these kids are very talented.
Very.
Very talented. And it's frustrating because... some of it is so well executed, and then they let a lot of easy stuff go.
Yep.
It's probably because they're so focused on all the hard stuff surrounding it.
Well, and I'll be completely honest, and I'll be the one to say it. I don't think the tuning sets them up for success.
I think their snare drums sound terrible.
I really think their battery tuning is not good. And I'm saying that as a guy that loves nothing more than the Bluecoats, right? Okay, yeah. I aged out of that organization. I really am not a fan of their battery tuning this year. And I feel like it's kind of gone progressively worse every year. And I don't know if it's because you will never get me to say a single bad thing about Tom Rarick and his writing, because of how much respect I have for that man.
He writes for the Bluecoats.
Yeah, okay. For context, yes, he writes for the Bluecoats. I think he's one of the most brilliant people that's ever been a part of the activity. But I don't feel like what his vision is being executed properly, both from a player standpoint and from a tuning standpoint. And I think the players are being done a disservice at this point because of the tuning of their drums. And, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I can't hear it from the lot videos I've seen and the flow marching broadcasts I've seen. But you know what? That's mostly because of the tuning.
Doesn't cut through.
It really doesn't cut through. And I feel like the amount that they're trying to do, whether or not it is ever executed well, doesn't cut through because of what the drums sound like.
There were a couple groups that fell into that pit trap tonight.
I mean, am I completely off base?
No, you're not off base. And actually, I've heard it's kind of through the grapevine, not from anybody that I've talked to directly, but that the tuning there of late, from a performer's perspective, like a person who's in that snare line, made it very hard for them to hear one another.
So okay, let me ask you this. So I'm a guy that I've stood in a snare line next to you, Evan.
Yes.
Right? Okay. I've done my career half in a battery, half in a front ensemble, more at the high level in a front ensemble. So let me ask you this: like, what is the issue there, and what can make it better from a player's perspective? Like, what are you looking for as a player?
I think
what are you looking for as a player?
I think the tops are too low.
Top heads sound too low.
Top heads are way too low.
So for the people that are listening that don't understand, what that does for you as a player, explain to me what that means
Well, like as a player, like both from like when I was a center snare or someone listening, if the top head is too low, like that's what you're listening to. Like if I'm listening to the person to my left or to my right, like all I can hear is top head. From an audience perspective, you hear mostly like a lot of bottom head.
Sure.
But hearing the top head is what I listen to and is what I was trained to listen to as a snare player. Like listen to the person inside of you, it's just ingrained in you. And if that pitch is super low, it gets very unarticulate.
Yep.
And it just kind of gets lost in the sounds that are happening around you. Like if you're in a snare circle in the middle of a brass hit or a trumpet hit, like that top head just gets lost.
So do you feel like that is the problem?
Sounds like
I mean, I'm not going to say that's the sole problem, but I think the tops are too low, just personally. I think they're too low.
I would agree with that. I mean, it definitely sounds like a lower tuned top head, and that he's exactly right. The head just becomes less articulate. A longer sound is produced from it because obviously the tension on the head is less, so the head vibrates more when you hit it. So the sound becomes longer and less short and harder to grab onto.
So I'm gonna be the guest host here and totally just take it over for a second.
That's fine.
Mike Fantini, you march Bluecoats.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between then and now?
One person.
I feel like I know what your answer is going to be, but I want to hear it. I want to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask you to be controversial.
We talked a little bit about this 2 weeks ago.
We talked about this 2 weeks ago or last week or something.
I know I listened.
Thank you.
Eric Shriver.
I'm a supporter.
Eric Shriver is incredible at tuning snare drums. Now, he didn't tune them all season. Roger tuned them sometimes.
Sure.
Eric tuned them sometimes. But I think Eric's influence had a big impact on that. Yeah, I mean, I just do. I think him, and you can see that when you look at the Blue Stars now, where Eric is now at. Their drums sound phenomenal.
Do they?
Their drums do sound phenomenal when you can hear them. But
when
we get to that,
let's blast through this here.
Yeah,
so
we will get to that.
That is the perfect segue I was looking for.
Now that you've put me on the spot,
when we get to them, I will ask the question: do they?
We need to have Ben give us a 101 mastery class on segues.
I know, right? Well, this next group, I don't have a ton of feedback on. So the group that finished fifth was the Cavaliers. And really the most I can say about them was they were just solid. All sections were solid.
I was very...
They are my most improved since spring training.
Nothing to me like...
very happy with what I saw.
Nothing to me was like, holy crap, that was phenomenal, but everything was just like, man, that was good.
Yeah, I didn't really see anything that I thought, oh God, that's just not good.
Yep.
They are easily my most improved group since tour started the third week of June, whenever the heck it was. They 100%, because Evan and I even said before,
I don't know, because I saw some spring training videos of them, and I was pretty impressed with what I saw kind of up front, kind of out of the gate from them. And so I expected a lot. So I guess maybe I'm getting what I expected out of them versus being super impressed on the amount of improvement, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was kind of low on them when tour started. You can ask Evan, like him and I were talking, just initial impressions.
Well,
I didn't think they came out of the gate well, and I was like, oh, they might not have a good year.
And you know what? Maybe that's my bias towards Matt. I mean...
But I'm totally switching that. Like, they've... Maybe just the small sample size I had just was the wrong sample.
And that happens.
And that happens all the time.
And I'm not saying I had more than 2 videos to go off of.
Yeah.
So
because in early season, there's not a lot out there.
No,
there's not a lot of content to view.
And that's what people listening to this have to realize is that we're going off of what we have to.
The Couchman.
Yeah, exactly. We're the low sample size Couchman age out drum corps nerds. Like that's what we have to go on. But from what I saw from the Cavaliers early on, it got me excited. Mainly because I'm such a huge Mac fan.
His writing's pretty awesome.
And like I said, Cavaliers 2011 was one of my favorite drum lines of all time, mainly because of the writing. So I'm getting kind of what I expect from them, and I'm happy about it.
It's cool. It's enjoyable. I think this will be the best year I think the Cavaliers have had
Since that year.
Since
I hope
2011.
So. I hope so.
Since they won that drum trophy, I think this is easily the best they've been at this point in the season since that summer.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yep.
As a Cavaliers and a Mac fan.
All right, who we got next?
Well, I'm going to kind of group 6, 7 here together because I think it's kind of where we start to get a little controversial. We got 6, Boston Crusaders, 7, the Cadets.
Good Lord.
Okay.
All right. The Boston Crusaders are good.
Is that a real
but
thing?
they're not better than the Cadets in drums.
Is that a real
Again,
thing?
No.
I'm going to be could be a front ensemble. I've also heard through the grapevine from friends in the activity that the Cadets front is holding them back. The show itself can impact judges' opinions.
I mean, it's not great.
But even at that, like, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, like, I don't care how good Boston Spit is. The Cadets drumline is that much better than Boston's.
Is the best drumline of 2017.
As of right now?
I'm saying it right now. The Cadets drumline is ridiculous.
Dude, they're throwing down.
They had a battery feature. And
I almost don't care if their pit plays or not.
Yeah, like, they had that battery feature tonight, and I just started laughing. I was like, this is great.
Like,
And if Boston's pit is better than Cadets, I just don't care because Cadets drumline is just that much better.
I didn't see it. I you know what? Cadets pit wasn't phenomenal. It wasn't good. You know, I would say it wasn't great. It did not.
It wasn't
It
great.
did not wow me by any means.
It was just there.
It was there.
Do you think?
But in no means did it take away from what that drum line did.
Oh my god!
And if you are seriously going to have a conversation with me about how Boston Crusaders
I don't
are
care if Colin's
anywhere
there right now or
near,
not.
And
I
don't get us wrong,
care.
this
don't
is a
care.
very good year for Boston. Like,
Yeah.
they're doing well.
and I am so happy for them.
But that's not a conversation. That
But
should
that's
be
not
had.
a conversation that should be had.
Comparing those two batteries.
No, I'm sorry, it shouldn't. Like, look, I don't know anybody in this activity that knows anything about anything that could tell you that you should in any way disrespect Colin McNutt and what he's done and what he can do. Because if you say that Colin McNutt doesn't want to know what he's doing, you're obviously completely ill-informed.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy has proven himself over and over and over again at every program he's been to. But, like, give him a break. It's his first year at Boston Crusaders. It's his first year.
And considering it is his first year, for them to be where they are now compared
They're
to where they were last
really
season,
good.
Yes.
They're really good. And that's what I don't want to be misconstrued, is that I'm not saying Boston Crusaders is not good, because they are really good.
But they're not better.
But they're not. The Cadets drumline is so good. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And it's every section. All three parts of the battery.
It really is.
The Cadets bass line is
It's filthy.
throwing.
It
filthy
really
good.
is, dude.
Throwing.
And like, so yeah, I used to be a bass tech.
I want to get into a high level thing to talk about here from a sound standpoint.
Okay, we'll get on to that.
It's San Antonio, so there's still a month left of tour, and typically a big thing from an ear standpoint is a drum line. You know they're very good when you have that quad to snare blend when they play stuff together, where it's hard to explain what that sounds like.
Sure.
But it sounds like, I mean, this is going to be cliche, but a snare line is clean when it sounds like one snare drum playing. The quad line is clean when it sounds like one quad line. So put the two together. If the snare to quad blend is good, it's going to sound like one drum.
It's going to sound like Bluecoats 2010.
Yeah, I mean, and the Cadets were the only battery I heard on that stream tonight. And I'm not afraid to make this statement, only hearing it over the internet, because if I heard them through them and not through anybody else, it's possible to hear that blend over the stream.
Yeah.
They were the only drum line I heard where the snares and quads were like right there, like nails from a sound quality
And you know what?
standpoint.
I'm going to call that a fair statement. From another just observer, like, I'm going to call that a fair statement, because there weren't many groups that I watched. Because let's face it, it's still July.
It's only the first regional.
Yeah.
But they've got
It's
that
still
sound.
July. And Evan, I see the look on your face.
It's
because,
late July.
Dude, Evan, I see the look on your face, and I'm the same guy as you in the sense that I have nothing else to offer to the activity but my ear. And I'm extremely picky, just like you are. in the sense that I almost can't enjoy anything unless it's damn near flawless. And it makes times like these during the season for both DCI and WGI almost unenjoyable, but I think I'm a little bit better at managing it than you are.
I think so.
All right.
But I will say, I was almost floored by the Cadets tonight. I mean,
It was great.
it was fantastic.
It got me excited.
It really did.
It
really did, and that's I'll say that's strictly from a battery standpoint.
Yeah, again, like we talked about earlier, the front ensemble is
it's
a huge
it's
factor,
there.
and that might, but I don't see their front being bad enough.
It's just there.
To the difference in the drum lines of Boston and Cadets,
Nope.
where the Cadets pit would pull them down far enough
It is just
for Boston
there.
to beat them in drums. I don't see
They're
it.
nowhere near what Vanguard's pit or what Bluecoats pit are doing. And we can come back to Bluecoats pit in a little bit because I know Evan has a little bit to say about that.
Yeah.
And as a Blue Pit alumni, I will be happy to have that discussion with him.
All right, we'll come back.
All right, 8 and 9 here. We have Bluecoats, percussion sitting, or not Bluecoats, Blue Knights. There's so many blue groups. We have the Blue Knights in 8th and Phantom Regiment in 9th, which
I think Blue Knights should beat Boston.
I think Blue Knights probably should have beat Boston.
Blue Knights are a breath of fresh air to the activity of what Mike Jackson is doing from a compositional standpoint. And really what they're achieving at an executional standpoint
The space.
should be way better.
The space.
It shouldn't even be in the same conversation as Boston and Phantom. I'm sorry. Like
Something I want to
I'm really not sorry.
something I want to bring up here, from a judging standpoint, the fact that it is the Blue Knights can hurt them.
How?
Not anymore. I don't feel like.
Really?
I
But
think
no,
Mike
just-
Jackson's made enough of a name
Just
for himself.
explain how.
I think the Blue Stars name is hurting that percussion section. I think if you take that same percussion section and put it on a bigger name corps, they place better tonight.
I don't
But-
think the Blue Stars name is hurting them. I think
No,
the
I
fact
think
that
the Blue
they
Stars
are
name
in
should be
10th
helping the Blue Stars, if anything.
I think the Blue Stars are where they should be. They're in 10th place.
Right.
I think
I
they're
mean,
in 10th place.
and if anything, the Blue Stars
so?
name to me.
I think so.
To me, to somebody who's
Name. Well, you said you think so. Name one group that you think the Blue Stars should have beat that we've
Sure.
already named.
just based on core, I guess.
I don't care. Just name one.
I guess
Who do you think that they should
repertoire
have?
alone.
Who do you think they should have beat?
Just based
that
on
they
the
finished
core's
behind?
resume alone.
Allow me to walk back what I said for a second and
No,
clarify.
no.
I want to clarify.
Nope, double down.
All right, fine.
Double down on it.
You guys are ruthless.
Yep.
That's what we're here for.
Well, I'm going to answer that by getting into something I know you two wanted to talk about before we started this.
Okay.
I can't really tell you from tonight's performance because we couldn't hear anything they were playing, really.
Who?
The Blue Stars.
Oh, thank you for segueing into that, Michael Fantini. So,
I'm not going to make that statement off of lot videos where they're standing.
I will be the guy that says it, and I'm okay with that because I have at least the sample size of everyone else to compare them to, right? So, what I should preface this is saying that seen a lot videos of the Blue Stars. Their drums sound phenomenal in the lot.
Yeah.
They are tuned so well, and they're executing really well. They sound really good until they get on the field, and then I can't hear them. Am I the only one that feels this way?
I can't hear, like, from the stream and this and that, I can't hear them either. I mean, you did make the point earlier that, hey, I mean, we're not on the field judging. The judge can probably hear it. 'cause
No,
he's right
and
there,
you know
but,
what?
like,
If the judge is standing there and you're just giving it to him in Marty Griffin's face, and he has all of a sudden the sense to give you the credit for it, then good for you. If
the touch is finesse to the max.
sure, I
It's
mean,
too light.
It's too light for me, though.
I'm not even going to say it's too light because clean is loud, and I'll say that all day. If you're playing at the same time and the sound waves line up, they should carry more than somebody who's not doing that. But to a certain extent, you have to produce those sound waves at a level to where they carry past the horn line. And whether or not that's the player's fault or the tuner's fault, I don't know. But I just know what it sounds like in the lot. And I know it sounds like just gorgeous music in the lot. And when you get it on the field, I just can't hear it. And that goes for the whole battery. I mean, it's not just the snare drums. It's the quads. It's the bass drums. I just cannot hear the battery when they get onto the field. So I can't give them very much credit. And I just kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt based on what I see in the lot.
Well, you say clean is loud, and that is true. But at the same time,
I say that to a certain extent.
Yeah. Like think about comparing the Blue Stars playing really well with the touch that they have versus the Cadets 2013.
Right.
Just going hard.
Right.
And like being perfectly clean. It's not even the same.
No. And let's give credit where credit's due. The Blue Stars are a really, really good drum corps as a whole. Okay?
I was surprised they were in 11th.
Yeah. So they're not like, it's not like their horn line's putting out wimpy sound. You know what I mean? Like
the whole top.
They're putting out a solid. They're putting out a solid ensemble sound, and when it comes to the intricacies of what the drumline is playing throughout that solid ensemble sound, I just can't hear it.
And for that reason, actually, the ensemble sound, I would have Crossman's drumline ahead of Blue Stars.
Crossman's drumline really, really impressed me tonight.
I would have them ahead of Blue Stars.
They were one of the only groups that played tap fives well.
They played tap fives.
Tap fives are a lost art.
They really are.
But look, Crossman really impressed me tonight, and big shout out to Josh Brickey and Jared Thomas and
all those dudes.
Yeah, Jared Courts for what they're doing down there, because
it's a program on the rise.
It really is a program on the rise.
I think the core as a whole is on the rise.
And I feel like we kind of skipped over them based on where we started in the rankings, but I'll be honest, man, what I heard from them based on everything we saw before them, and I texted Josh and I told him this. I said, look, when we saw Crossman go on the field tonight, it was a step up from everything we'd seen drum-wise
previously
by tenfold.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was the separator from everything we'd seen before Crossman went on to, okay, now we're looking at a different league. So just huge props to those guys for what they're doing to build that program.
Need to message Jared and Josh and find out what their secret is on the tap five.
Fundamentals.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Don't hit the accent too hard, but hit it hard enough.
Yeah. Weight of the hand. All right, let's see here. Let's keep moving here.
Did we talk about Phantom at all?
I want to talk about
didn't
Phantom.
talk about Phantom.
I want to talk about Phantom.
Let's back up. We'll talk about Phantom then. The old Phantom Regiment.
So are you guys just going to keep setting up and letting me talk about it, or is somebody else going to come up with a take?
I'll come up with a take.
Let's have a hot take from Evan Worrell.
The hot take for me on a Phantom Regiment is their book is way too dense and murky. They play well.
You thought that?
Yeah, dude.
Okay, all right.
I think that they play what they're given well.
Let's roll with that.
But the book is just super thick, and that creates ensemble dirt.
Yeah, I mean, you can look back at the Glassman lines that Rob Ferguson wrote for a handful of years ago.
All right, you broached the subject that I wanted to get on.
No, it's just how Rob's always written.
Yes.
You look at the
He
Glassman.
writes thick.
So I feel like Phantoms, the players that they have, are more capable than what the package that they were given is, if that makes sense. I feel like they could achieve at a higher level than what their book is. But their book is written in a manner to which it is a bit complicated and a bit difficult to achieve because it is, in your words, so dense.
Yeah, like if you took a section by itself and listen to that, it's like like just listening to the bass drums, like, yeah, what they're playing is difficult.
Yes.
And they're achieving it well. But when you overlay that with a difficult bass book that's being achieved well, with a difficult snare book that's being achieved well, and a difficult tenor book that's being achieved well, they don't necessarily line up.
No, because I feel like they have really good players.
Yeah.
I really feel like they can execute really well based on the players they have. But I have never, ever been a fan of Rob Ferguson's writing. I just haven't. And that's, I got a lot of friends that have marched Matrix and, that have marched Phantom and
Glassman.
And Glassman that are big Rob supporters, and I got nothing but respect for the guy because he's obviously achieved a great amount in this activity.
I really like his front ensemble writing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like the guy knows what he's doing. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
And that's strictly from an opinion standpoint. I mean,
you say it's not for you, but I also would say that it's not, like you said, it's not designed to set up the battery to succeed at its highest possible potential.
And I'm only going to say that for this book. Like, I'm not gonna make a general statement about Rob Ferguson's book. I could.
I will.
You know what? That's okay because I'm not gonna disagree with you about Rob as a writer. But
do I think I could do a better job? No, I don't. But
well, I don't know if you could or not.
It is what it is. Like, I think that the books are dense, and I think it's always been like that.
Well, and it is what it is. And look, Rob's obviously done well for himself.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think anybody can disagree with that. Is it my favorite? No. It never has been. But I'm not going to take away from what the guy's done.
No.
I just know that I'm speaking about this particular book, and I know personally some of the players in that group. I've taught some of them before, and they're not always allowed to shine as much as they could because of how dense the book is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's for it being that dense, it's not quite as cool as it should be for something that is that dense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because
I feel like they're achieving at a high level. It's just not really that cool.
And also to kind of Rob's, I guess, credit or defense, like Phantom Regiment has never been a core that highlights its drumline. Even when they're great, they just never have.
That's a very
and keep in mind,
and I think probably that's part of why maybe like Paul left. He just got tired of fighting.
I'm not going to pretend to know what the situation there was, but I
Phantom
can
Regiment's
tell
always
you,
been like hornline.
Yes.
Hornline.
And I can tell you, dude, I think you can both. I may have said it tonight. You may be able to both guess my favorite drum line of all time.
It's a Phantom line, isn't it? 2010.
2010. Phantom Regiment 2010, I think, is the best drum line I've ever heard. Maybe next to Star 92.
Mine's Phantom 06. I heard them live.
I heard Phantom 06 live too. And while they're pretty much equal, I happen to prefer 2010.
That's fine.
But you're exactly right. They've never, ever just totally said, all right, this is the best thing we got going for us in terms of the
Let's
battle.
ride that.
Yeah, let's just let this thing be our forefront. No, because let's face it, Phantom's always had Phantom's always featured their horn line. Is what I'll say. There have been a lot of great years where they've been phenomenal horn players and deserve to be featured over anything, but there have been some years where they, haven't been that great, and the drumline deserved a little more credit than they got from a full core standpoint.
I agree.
Who else we got left?
All right, let's round this out here. So, really, I'll tie these two together because the 12th place core overall was Mandarins, but the 12th place drumline overall was the Madison Scouts.
Oh boy!
So Scouts finished 12th in drumline, but 13 overall. Mandarins flipped that.
That's interesting.
I was pretty impressed with the Mandarins.
Good for the Mandarins, man. It's good to shake things up.
Yeah,
they played good.
Yeah. we're getting to the point where
I don't know what their show's about.
Yeah.
A bunch of ink pens and stuff.
Yeah.
But I also don't know what the Madison Scout show is about. They had a bunch of like
I'm pretty sure if
oxygen
you just
tanks
watch
with like Mad Max
Music City Mystique show, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah.
It's like a cross between MCM and like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
I don't know. It was dumb. I keep in mind, like I said, I'm not a design guy. I'm not a concept guy. I'm strictly music. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. I thought the show was dumb.
I don't know what it's about. I mean, it's called Last Man
I
Standing.
honestly don't think it matters what it's about. I just think it was dumb.
Irrelevant of what the show is about, what do you think the Mandarins should have beat them in percussion?
Yes.
Well, the Mandarins didn't beat them in percussion.
Should they have?
Should they have?
Yes, they should have.
Probably. Because I think what the Madison Scouts are being asked to do is probably more difficult, but what I think the Mandarins are doing is cleaner.
Yes.
That's fair.
I will agree with that.
I don't know what's...
Scouts are in a little bit of a slump.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
They're just not very clean. That's what's going on there.
Fair enough.
So
either the kids are not
I
taking the information well, or the
because
information is not being given well. That's just one of two things. Either.
I'm not gonna go on that limb because I know. Okay, that's fine.
Well, that's what it boils down to. Either the information is not being giving
obviously it's
one
of those two things.
Or it's not being taken correctly.
Obviously, it's one of those two things. But I think we all know. Everybody at this table knows where the information is coming from in that group. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's there
teaching.
I don't know who's teaching, who's on tour.
But we all know James.
Yeah, we all know James.
Okay. James's group. And from my experience in working with James and being taught by James, the guy knows what he's talking about. So yeah. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that they can't get the kids there.
Having recruiting issues then?
That's what I'm going to assume.
I don't know who the
I'm not going to assume that they just can't teach. I mean, I'm not going to assume that because I don't know.
I'm not assuming that James can't teach at all because James has had success with
obviously
like Cadets and Infinity.
Infinity, yeah. Obviously, James knows what he's doing.
But like, I don't know anybody that's teaching there, and I don't know what information they're giving, and I don't know how that information is being received. All I know is they are not clean.
The one thing I'll say, though, if we're talking about it being a recruiting issue, you as a staff have to be able to... Now, granted, this is the first regional. You said it earlier, Ben, before we started watching. Usually San Antonio is the point.
Yeah, this is the show before the hose.
Exactly. What he means by that is this is typically the point in the season where if stuff hasn't started to clean up yet, they will then heavily consider watering the parts down and making them more achievable. Yes. So that might be their plan at Scouts. Their plan could be, like we said, James is not dumb.
No, he's not. He's a very smart guy.
So we'll see what happens over the next week or two at the Atlanta Regional next weekend. What's after that? Is it Allentown right after Atlanta?
Atlanta, then Murfreesboro.
Allentown.
And then finals. Yes. So we'll see what happens over the last month of the season here. But this is typically, I don't want to say like they don't know to water it or they refuse to because they probably will. I remember when I marched, nothing really got watered until the first regional.
Well, and you know what? To a certain extent, there's only so much you can water. Like, the kids got to execute, you know.
You can water a lot.
You can water a lot.
Yeah, sure. If you want to make your whole book eighth notes, I mean, yeah.
Some people do that.
Well, there's some times where that's needed. But I'm just saying, like, you know, at a certain point, I've been on a staff and I've been a teacher where, not my kids personally, but, you know, there's a certain level that was the max that was going to be achieved. And
every group of kids has their ceiling.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, they reach their ceiling, and, you know, you got to adjust to that. And it's not always a reflection of who you have teaching there, who you have writing. Like, you know, it's all about how you can adjust to that. And so I'm not gonna put it on the staff.
No, not at all. We'll see. Like I said, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks to see if they water things down, just make it more obtainable.
It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
I think that would be the case for everybody.
Well, there's probably in the history of the last 30
Specifically
years of
Bluecoats.
DCI, there's probably never been a group that hasn't made something easier in their
I was
book.
the guy that said that just now.
They will. They got a lot of smart people
I don't
on
care
staff.
if we're running out of time. I said that.
Yeah, we do need to. It's been a lot of fun. We'll have you on again. This has been pretty cool.
Has it?
Yeah.
Has
I've
it
had
though?
fun. The whole day was great. We slow cooked ribs.
You know what? This has been a pretty good day.
4K streamed the stream and hung out.
That 4K stream.
Dude, that 4K was it.
Yeah.
I've never watched another flow marching event without Evan Worrell bringing up his Apple TV 4th generation.
So regardless of that, those little details of our day, are there any groups we wanted to talk about we didn't get to? You already put your recap away?
I put it away, but just
is there
thinking,
anyone we skipped over?
I don't think so. I'll run down the list here. Troopers, Colts, Spirit, Pacific Crest.
Troopers, impressive.
Yeah.
Troopers were good.
Troopers are a great theater group.
To Vanguard.
Yes.
Ironically, though, we were watching the stream today with a guy that was in Vanguard's pit recently, and he said they don't really get a lot of Troopers percussionists.
I don't care. I'm just judging. I don't mean that to be an asshole, but just what I'm seeing out of Troopers is they're solid.
Yeah.
If whether or not they're a feeder to Vanguard or what, or they're the Rennick Junior group, it's solid. You know, I'm impressed with what I see out of there.
All right, so now that we've seen the first regional, Evan and I made drum trophy predictions on the last 2 episodes ago because this is 4.
Well, I predict that Cadets won't win because they're getting absolutely hosed right now.
Yes, I think even if they weren't, I don't think based on how good the whole package is at Vanguard and Crown, and you have to say BD because you just have to.
Which is stupid.
I agree, but they're always there.
Yeah.
I think because of the whole package being there with those 3 groups, I think the Cadets battery is easily on pace to be a drum trophy winning drumline. But from what I've heard from friends in the activity that are more privy to front ensemble related things, their front might prevent them from winning a drum trophy. Even if the judges weren't hosing them and putting them in 6 somehow.
As a front guy, they are.
So
because also as a battery guy, I'll say this: the fact that Cadets battery may not win a drum trophy is appalling.
It's unfortunate.
It really is, because no one is achieving at that level or attempting what they're attempting. I mean,
so I think the Bluecoats are attempting stuff on par with difficulty.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that, but
they aren't achieving
nowhere near achieving what the Cadets are achieving.
So where I was going with that is, we're going to do you last.
That's fair.
Your prediction for the Fred Sanford Drum Trophy.
I'm going to start thinking about it.
Who did you say last time?
My top 3 last time were Vanguard, Cadets, and Crown.
So you thought Vanguard was in the lead last time?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, according to the results tonight, Vanguard is still kind of leading the charge. So basically, my new top 3 would be Vanguard, Crown second, Cavies third. I think that's my top 3 in that order.
Yeah, I said last time I thought Cadets were going to win drum trophy. I don't think that's the case anymore, unfortunately.
But I think Vanguard has a good chance of getting passed up pretty much.
If the Cavies continue to progress how they've progressed the first 3 or 4 weeks, the first half of tour basically, I think they'll have a shot at it because their front's always phenomenal.
Yeah,
if their drum line keeps that steady progress, I think the Cavies could win it.
Yeah.
I think if they don't, again, I have to say BD has a shot.
Why?
But I really think if Crown staff can fix hold on.
Okay.
If Crown staff can fix the potential content issues
they can't.
Judges might be having with their front book, that battery is good enough to win a drum trophy, or will be in 4 weeks from now.
You could add stuff if
too much of an overhaul.
We'll see.
If they can fix the content area, my money's on Crown.
Okay.
If they can't, on the front side of things, I think it could be I mean, Vanguard. I think Vanguard will win. If Cavies plateau early, and Crown can't fix their content, I think Rennick will fix that snare line. I think him and his snare techs, they're just magicians. They might be in a midsummer slump. Had a bad run tonight. We don't know.
It is odd. It's odd.
My money's on Vanguard at this point, unless the Cavies keep progressing at the rate they've been progressing at.
So, I'm going to go with Mike on this. If you look at front ensemble to battery, somehow magically, Vanguard's battery has, I feel like, just from what I've seen, and again, I'm a weekend warrior, a YouTube watcher here, but Vanguard's battery has regressed in terms of quality. Am I incorrect in stating that?
I think it's a valid statement.
I think it's valid.
That's what I feel by watching the videos. Now, that being said, I'm normally the guy that is really bored with what Paul Rennick does year after year, because I found it so amazing back in 2006 and 2007, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's especially, I mean, it was at the pinnacle of 2010 for me. I mean, you know, that musical package was what it was, and I felt like it just kind of reached its peak then. And in those years, it was one of the most phenomenal things we've ever seen. And then I just got bored with it, right? This year, I'm honestly kind of impressed with the couple steps. And it really is. It's a couple steps taken forward with what he usually writes. And I'm, you know, early on, I was really impressed with the execution level from the battery standpoint. Now, the given with his group and what his wife does in terms of arrangement for the front ensemble it's almost a lock. It's always fantastic. So if that battery continues to ramp up and almost achieve what they did earlier in the season, because I do feel like they've regressed a little bit in terms of clarity, but the content that they have, if they continue to achieve that at a higher and higher level of clarity, there is nobody that's going to be able to step in front of them, only because the Cadets battery does not have the front ensemble to back up what their battery is doing. That's my opinion. So if I'm going to pick a Sanford winner, I'm going to go Vanguard.
Okay.
Solid.
Ben, your dog's killing me right now.
Well,
It did just thunder outside, so that makes sense.
Is that what that was? Because I'm not really sure what he's angry about.
Dogs hate thunder.
But he's angry about something. He's always angry.
That's our chime to wrap this one up.
Yeah.
We've been going a little longer than normal, but so yeah, Evan, what was your money on again?
Vanguard.
Yeah. I
It's a
want to
safe
see the
bet.
Cavaliers do it. I still hate the snare drum splits. We don't have time to talk about that more. I still hate that, but they've been improving like crazy.
Next time you guys have me back on, we'll do a whole hour on how I hate quad and snare drum splits.
All right, fair enough.
And then, so my realistic money is safe bets Vanguard, long shot is Cavies, as long as they keep doing what they've been doing. Ben also went with Vanguard.
Yeah.
So we're going to close this one out. Be sure to like our Facebook page at facebook.com/
Aged Out Podcast.
follow us on Instagram at
Aged Out Podcast.
And if you have any questions, for us that you'd like us to address on future episodes, you can post them in the comment section of the YouTube video, on the wall of the Facebook group. You can email it to us at
agedoutpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can hit us up on Twitter, Instagram.
pretty much all of the / whatever is just Aged Out Podcast.
Yeah.
If you don't know where to find us, just do / Aged Out Podcast after
You'll
the
find
website,
it.
and you'll find us. And on that note, we'll see everybody next time.
Peace.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Good time.